Hello ladies and gentlemen, today's lesson is Moving Straight Ahead 1.3. I'm coming to you today from the LMC. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be talking about identifying linear equations and how linear equations work. We are already hinting on what a linear relationship is, that a linear relationship is something that grows in a straight pattern, a constant rate, or when we graph it, it becomes a straight line. Today's lesson is called Raising Money. It takes place on page 8 and 9, problems A through C. We're going to do 6 through 8, 23 through 26, 31, and 32. Let's get started with our notes. Now we're going to want to get these notes down. They're going to be vital and important because we're going to be coming back to them again and again. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, lesson 1.3 notes. We want to make sure that's at the top of our page and that we have name, date, and crew. We want to make sure we have page 8 through 9 so we know what page of the textbook to look in. If we haven't already checked out a textbook, we probably should find Mr. Briggs, sign out a book, make sure you have a number in there so he can come and find you, hunt you down like the animal you are if you forget to give the book back. You know, it's not a huge deal. I'll just probably charge your parents. Anyway, linear equations. A linear equation is a rule that say that any number for x will give you another number for y. Basically, it's a way of describing a relationship between two numbers, that for every one of these, we get so many of that. Okay? And we write them in this form. Y equals the coefficient times x plus b. Now, the m here is our coefficient, okay? And the coefficient is what we are multiplying x by, right? So if we're doubling x, our coefficient is 2. If we're multiplying x by 3, our coefficient is 3. If we're multiplying x by 25, our coefficient is 25. It's what we are growing by, our rate. And then the y-intercept, which will become an important thing later, is where the line crosses the y-axis, and it's represented here by b. Okay? Usually it's going to be a number. X will almost always be x. M here will usually be a value like 1x, 2x, 3x, 4x, and b will usually be plus 1, 2, 3. In short, m and b are both going to be integers. Okay, but now let's look at what does this actually mean. Okay, here's an example of a linear equation. We have y equals 2x plus 1. So y equals 2x plus 1. What does that mean? Well, that means that if x is 1, I just plug x into this equation. So I do 2 times 1, in this case, because I get that from the 1 here, plus 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. Then, if x is 2, I do 2 times 2 plus 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. I take 3 for x, and I get 2 times 3 plus 1. Well, 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. For 4, I do 2 times 4 plus 1 gives me 9. So as you can see, they're all growing by a steady rate. Every time x increases by 1, y is increasing by 2. Okay, that's how we know it's a linear relationship. It has a steady rate. It's increasing by 2 every time y increases. So all this is a rule, that if x is going to be this, y has to be that. And when we graph this out on a line here, we basically get ordered pairs. So for my first point, it's going to be 1, 3. I go over 1, up 3. My next point is going to be 2, 5. Over 2, up 5. My next point is going to be 3, 7. Over 3, up 7. My next point is going to be 4, 9. Over 4, up 9. And it forms a linear equation, a line, right? And if you notice, it crosses at 1, which is my y-intercept. My y-intercept is where does the line cross on the y-axis. All right, so that's how we take an equation, make it into a table, and make it into a graph. And we're going to learn in this unit how to go from equation to table to graph, or from graph to table to equation and back again. It's all finding these 3 different ways to represent the same relationship. So let's do a couple of different examples. Okay, our first equation here is y equals 3x. Well, basically I take x and multiply it by 3. So if x is 1, y has to be 3, because I do 3 times x. Okay, 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. And when I graph those out, over 1 up 3, over 2 up 6, over 3 up 9, over 4 up, well, somewhere up there 12, right? And I end up getting, let me see if I can do a straightish line better than that. I'm really bad at doing lines today. I end up getting a line that looks like that. Okay? But now, let's say y equals 5. Well, what do you mean y equals 5? Well, there's no x here, right? There's no coefficient. So what is this equation really saying? It's saying no matter what x is, y is always 5. Let me ask you a question. Is this a linear relationship? Well, what does a linear relationship mean? It means the only thing a linear relationship has to have is a steady rate. Well, this is going up by 1, right? So that's pretty steady. And this is going up by 0. Is 0 a rate? Is 0 form a straight line? Sure it does. If I graph that, let me use a different colored marker here. Well, at 0, when x is 0, what's y? 5. When x is 1, what's y? 5. When it's 2, it's 5. When it's 3, it's 5. When it's 4, it's 5. No matter what, it's always 5. So what we learn is, we learn a couple of things from this graph. We learn that if y is always the same, it is indeed a linear relationship. It is flat. We also learn where these lines cross, which is a really important number. It tells us when is this value going to be equal to that value. And we'll be hitting that up pretty close to the end of this unit. Okay, with that practice out of the way, we're going to go ahead and do lesson 1.3 practice. And 1.3 practice is all about raising money. We're going to be doing 8 through 9, A through C, and we're going to do the ACE problems 6 through 8, 23 through 26, 31, and 32. All right, ladies and gentlemen, have fun.